Hello there, kitty. This is a channel of sustainability and how we make it cute. I'm your host, Elena, and we will talk about some innovations because I'm chaotic as fuck and I can't do just one thing or theoric videos. We are here in a park, so you may hear some birds around me. I think it's important to see that some humans care as much as we do for the planet and invent new things that can maybe help us solve of the waste problems or carbon emission problems that we have nowadays. And it's amazing how the science has evolved. So if you wanna comment, do it politely. I encourage you to click the subscribe button for more interesting videos. And without further ado, let's go. So today we're going to talk about biopesticides. I think it's a groundbreaking technology that we invented for the new ways of agriculture that we have nowadays. It's made out of plants, bacteria, fungi, and other plants that can help us reduce the chemicals that we put onto our plants, onto our crops and everything, so we can kind of make the environment a little bit better. Unlike the chemical ones, these are specifically targeted for some pests and some insects, but in a way that don't hurt the environment around us, or it's not toxic for the ground that we plant them on. So therefore, we reduce the pollution on the soils that we are working on, and that's a very good alternative, as I said, for the chemical ones that we may even ingest if we do not clean the thing is properly. A good example of this, Marron Bio innovations, that they have come with regalia and other kind of pesticides that we can use in several of our crops. So I think this is the evolution that we just need to maybe improve our consumption of chemicals and our consumption of microplastics. Carbon negative concrete. This material is made to reduce and reverse the carbon footprint of concrete while it's made and after it's used. In tech trapping CO2, we can see that we can trap some of the emissions during certain industrial processes to put it in the concrete and actually improve some of the mechanical structure in it. It's made with alternative binding materials such as ash, such as slag, or other recycled materials that can help us, as I said, to achieve an improvement in also the mechanical properties and the physical properties of the same concrete. Carbicrete, for example, is a process that replaces the cement with steel slag to improve the resistance of the concrete itself. The carbon concrete negative CO2 production can boost also its durability. So it lasts longer and it has better mechanical properties by reusing a material that is really harmful for us. So the next one we're doing is plastic asphalt. This tech can help reduce 40% of the CO2 emissions during its production and with the waste that comes along with it, making it a really good option instead of normal pavement. It comes from a non-burning plastic technology, but it was inspired since in India they used to put plastics in holes and burn it down so they can refill some places in the pavement. In the Mac River in the UK, made up with a different kind of pavement that helps even to put some space in between for the cables and for the water to filter down and actually get into the soil without that much contamination. Even if it's based in India, it's used all around the world, like in Pakistan, like in Vietnam, to make different kind of roads and different kind of pavements that also capture a good part of the CO2 emissions that they're made during the process and, as I said, after it. The fourth one will be self-healing concrete. Is a kind of concrete that they have recently made because normal concrete actually cracks down under tension, and that's a big problem that we have in certain buildings made out of concrete, because if the crack is too big, it can allow to the oxidation to penetrate onto the structure. So with the calcite precipitating bacteria, they have achieved concrete that can actually regenerate itself and heal itself. So that means the cracks won't get as big, therefore the structure of the buildings won't be as compromised as before. Also reducing the waste in repairing the cracks. Though nowadays it's only used in some chemical and some toxic retention places, because for now repairing the cracks is the most economically friendly option. Meatable is the fifth option that we have, and we all know that the meat industry is a big problem for all of us because it produces a lot of water waste, it produces a lot of mass slaughter, and we produce way more meat than we actually need to. So a lot of that meat just goes to waste and no one ever eats it. Processing the meat also creates a lot of CO2 contamination. So I think it's very important that this kind of innovations get to a better place and we start using them. Meatable is a lab-grown meat that actually can grow meat upon hours, and we can make muscle tissue and therefore protein and free of slaughter meat for us to eat. So we can produce the exact amount that we need or that we think that we need, but without killing all these animals and producing this extra waste. That doesn't mean that we stop consuming meat altogether, but we do it in a better and more friendly way for the environment and for us. It can also solve the resources problem in certain places where they don't have enough water or enough whatever to actually raise all those animals, and we can produce this meat so they can have meat to eat, for example, and proteins to eat without the killing part. That's very good, right? But I think I want to ask you is, would you eat it? Comment it below. And as always, be nice, please. We're almost at the end. The sixth one is the carbon capture and utilization technologies. As I said before, we use it for creating new materials like the concrete that I mentioned before. And it's actually a really good way to reduce the CO2 emissions because we capture it before it reaches the atmosphere. As I said, we use it for certain chemicals, to improve some materials, or to make new materials altogether. It promotes a circular life cycle for the CO2 emissions that we actually produce with a lot of products, industrial products. So if we get it before it reaches the atmosphere, we can make it into new products that are so much more viable than the ones that we were producing before, probably. The director of the Shell Industries, the petrol and everything, has said that this is one of the technologies that could help us to achieve the Paris Agreement for the climate change. So I think it's very important that we give this kind of technologies a chance and actually some funds, if we can, of course. I'm not rich. This is the last part. We are going into bio packaging and biodegradable packaging, eco-friendly one, because I think it's really important how we treat the waste of all these packagings that we use in daily lives, in supermarkets, especially in foods, that are going to waste or are going to pollution in the oceans or are not recyclable at all. The microplastic thing came from trying to recycle all of these materials and discovering that they did not break down completely, but they produce these micro thingies that we now see in our brains, in our bodies, in our fishes, and in our meat. I think it's very important that we kind of pressure the companies into making different kinds of packaging, especially. Those biodegradable and newer packagings are made out of starch, of cellulose, or biodegradable components that can actually go into the soil and even benefit them, because if we add seeds and if we add other things that are good for the environment, this can also be a way of reusing all of these packages that are nowadays producing all of this waste problem, because as we know, the normal packagings of plastics are made of fossil fuels that are non-degradable and stay in the environments for thousands of years. This is the end of the video. Thank you for accompanying me on this little walk, on this little top of hopeful innovations. And if you like this kind of video, click the subscribe button, comment respectfully, and I will try to upload once a week as always. Thank you and have a nice day, cutie. Bye.